Hot mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
All right, let's go ahead and call the April 24th regular meeting to order for the Talent City Council. Roll call, please.
Councilor Collet. Here. Councilor Renemro,
Here.
Councilor Greider,
Here.
Councilor Pestizo. Here. Councilor Byers,
Here.
Councilor Carr Miller. And Mayor Harris Flood.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Hector. I just want to announce that we are not in our regular chambers. This is for the record. We are all mic'd up and we're recording on Zoom. So we intend to get through this evening with a successful meeting record, but we are out of our element a little bit here. So we're asking for everybody's patience and indulgence. Hector, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, Mayor did a good job.
Okay,
just want
thank you.
to remind everybody that this room is a little smaller than the council chambers at Town Hall. So we ask for your patience, and if you get too hot, you can step out into the lobby.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is additions and corrections to the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, I think we had an email about this, but we have a presentation, which is usually right after a speaker is heard on non-agenda items. So I wanted to move item 10.2, which is a presentation by the Together for Talent Committee, up to just after item 4, speakers heard on non-agenda item.
And is that a 15-minute presentation?
Or less. It's a short presentation.
Okay, so any objection from the council? So we're going to move item 10.2 up to 4.1. Did I get that right?
Sure.
Okay.
We even have to remember all of them.
Yeah, presentation. Okay. Are there any other additions? With the council's consent, I would like to add the appointment for our liaison position for Councilor Collet to item 9. I'd like to make it 9. Let's see, wait a minute, new business. I better put it under new business. Let's make it 10.2, which will be the appointment of Councilor Collet to 2 liaison positions. All right, are there any objections to any of the changes or additions? Hearing none, I'll move on. The next agenda item is community announcement. Staff?
Mayor, members of the council, just have a few community announcements tonight. Upcoming events we have on April 27th, the groundbreaking ceremony at the Talent Mobile Estates. Council is invited to attend. It's at 11 o'clock. If you could let us know how many of you plan to attend, and we can talk about possibly needing to do a public notice. April 27th also is Local Goods Market at Wagner Plaza. And also on April 27th, the free Woody debris drop off at Fire District 5 from 9 to 4. On May 2nd, the peer committee meeting is here at the community center at 11 o'clock. And on May 11th, we have the Talent Craft Ball annual event citywide from 11 to 5. And then the citywide yard sale is occurring on April 18th from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ongoing notices, we have citizens alert to encourage residents to sign up and receive emergency alerts to their preferred devices. I believe that's available on the website.
Yes, it's on the website.
Thank you, Hector. And weed abatement notices have been sent. A reminder to the residents to keep weeds at 6 inches or shorter, starting May 15th and going through fire season. And finally, we are entering our budget season, and we have budget committee meetings scheduled for May 1st, May 8th, and June 5th.
Yeah, ergo, in a different place, patience. Yeah, thanks, everybody. This is gonna be a fun night. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is speakers heard on non-agenda items, and I don't think I have any. Are there any online speaker requests for non-agenda?
Mayor, there were none at public testimony. And I do believe the majority of the speaker request forms you have are for
All the,
for an agenda item.
all right.
I'll watch the attendees for raised hands.
I'm sorry about this. Hector, can you come and help me switch over to the other agenda packet? I can't read the content. Yeah, so that's the study session. Thank you. Thank you, Hector. All right, thanks, everybody. Okay, the next, there are no speaker request forms for non-agenda items. So the next item on the agenda is presentation. And it is a presentation by Together for Talent on proposed talent gas resolution.
David Spinning, chair of Together for Talent, and we want to improve 3 things for our residents. First, safety in terms of both fire resilience and reduced exposure to toxins, health with clean air and water, and helping all of us spend less for basics. To support our residents, we plan an educational campaign to inform and guide people to make their homes safer and healthier with better energy efficiency and independence from fossil fuels, and to share ways to save money while implementing these improvements. These will also increase our compliance with the Talent Comprehensive Plan's clean energy development. Burning so-called natural gas, which is mostly methane, produces toxins that are detrimental to our health and environment. No, we don't want to take away those gas oils. Although many attorney chefs are experiencing the advantages of induction cooking and protection. What we do want is to educate our residents about the advantages of being prepared for the coming transition to electrification while saving money. For example, my utility bill was $271.59 for the last year. Our home is completely electrified. So we ask the council to support both our upcoming educational campaign and to help prepare new homes for full electrification and energy savings by directing staff, who are already doing more than they need to be doing, to review our resolution, then bring it back to council for consideration. This resolution supports clean air in 3 ways. 1, educating the community on ways to mitigate public health risks of methane while saving money. 2, investigating ways the state can act under its own authority. And 3, calling upon state agencies to do what they can to protect public health. In the future, we must use less fossil fuels for both health and environmental reasons. as well as to improve our fire safety by reducing the effects of warmth and drought. The council can present with a sign-on letter as part of your packet, I believe, showing support for many local and regional organizations who wish to express our appreciation. I also want to introduce two other speakers on behalf of the group. We are joining us on Dylan Plummer from the Sierra Club and Tara Saylor, an attorney for Lewis and Clark Law School. Thank you for supporting Together for Talent, so we can continue to make a significant difference and improve life for our residents.
Thank you, David. And do they need to be brought over to the main?
Dylan is, in the audience and
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so very much for having me. I think that the plan was for Kara to go next, and then I can kind of round us out with anything that might be missing. But I'm not sure, is Kara able to come off mute?
Yes, thank you so much. I was afraid that I might be attending this meeting and be forced to be silent. Thank you so much. So your efficiency and ability to pivot tonight is an inspiring example of good government. So thanks so much for inviting us to speak here tonight. It's a privilege, and I'll keep my remarks very brief. So my name is Kara Saylor. I'm the director and one of two staff attorneys at the Green Energy Institute at Lewis and Clark Law School. GEI is a climate and energy policy organization founded 10 years ago. We focus on developing smart and comprehensive strategies to support a swift and equitable transition to a carbon-free energy grid. And as a climate policy and energy law organization, GEI has been deeply involved in natural gas and electric utility planning, natural gas and electric utility rate increases, and climate policy aimed at reducing emissions from methane. We have also served as a sounding board for local governments seeking legal and smart ways to address emissions from natural gas. And I've been struck by a few things in all of the proceedings GEI has participated in. First, Avista is planning to replace methane with alternative fuels. Those fuels will be expensive and will still produce the same pollution upon combustion. Second, we know, you all know more than anyone, we need to invest in our electric system to protect homes from wildfires and make it more reliable. So let's invest that money in our electric system, an energy source everyone needs. And finally, one thing you may be wondering about is how beneficial it will be to address methane use when the city is served by Pacific Power. You will be happy to know that several studies have shown that heat pumps slash emissions, no matter how dirty the grid is. Last month, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory confirmed that heat pumps lower household annual emissions on average by 36% to 64%, which is sort of a surprising statistic. So I just want to commend you. The proposed resolution folks have put together here. It's a thoughtful and prudent approach to evaluate solutions to a pressing problem. And I just want to underscore that GEI is a resource, a place, for folks to come with questions. We are grant funded to support the work, the hard work that local governments are doing. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Kara. My name is Dylan Plummer. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the senior field organizing strategist with the Sierra Club, working on building decarbonization in Oregon and Washington. I live up here in Eugene, where I'm calling in from, but I actually grew up in the Rogue Valley, and it's just been an absolute pleasure getting to work with Councilmember Pomeroff and to see talent moving forward with electrification policy, or at least with this resolution. And I'll just speak very briefly and say that, in my work, I have seen not only the significant benefits of electrification as have been detailed previously in this presentation, but I've also seen the kind of mind-boggling tactics taken by the gas industry in order to prevent this transition. And I think those aggressive anti-climate lobbying tactics only make it more clear how important it is for local governments like Talent to be moving forward with the clean energy transition, because we know when we have these multi-million-dollar utilities like Avista and Cascade Natural Gas and Northwest Natural working overtime, lobbying against climate action, litigating against climate action, and advertising and propagandizing our community with advertisements and various other materials about the benefits of staying hooked on a fossil fuel. It is so critical that we're working at all levels of government in order to really chart that energy transition and chart a renewable energy future. And as I'm sure you all are familiar with, the community in Southern Oregon led the charge against the Jordan Cove fracked gas pipeline export terminal for over a decade of resistance, and really, set a precedent nationally for what it looks like to fight against ill thought out projects like Jordan Cove. And we see electrification as just kind of the natural extension of the amazing work that's already been done in this community, and really just kind of continuing to move away from fossil fuels and to setting an example that can be followed not just in Oregon but around the nation in protecting communities from the climate crisis, as well as really recognizing and taking action on the very real health impacts from the indoor and outdoor health impacts associated and air quality impacts associated with burning gas. So that's all I've got. I really appreciate you all having us on, and I'm very excited to see this resolution that the city council is considering tonight.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Okay, is that the conclusion? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Council? All right. So the recommendation from the Together for Talent is for us to direct staff to consider the resolution and bring it back in a future agenda. I don't think you need a motion to that effect, do you? You want a motion?
All
All right. I'll entertain a motion if there's no question. Council Penamra?
I move to direct staff to review the resolution and bring it back to council for deliberation and a possible vote at a future meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second to direct staff to review the resolution and bring it back to the city council for a possible vote at a future meeting. Did I get it? Is there any further discussion? Councilor Byers.
Just a statement as we do this important work of looking at creating cleaner energy in our community. I do think it's important for us to recognize as a city government and continue to set this precedent that this is energy that is cleaner for us, but not cleaner for everyone. And even the use of electrification still impacts communities in developing countries. And it's important for us to recognize that while it is a better solution, it is still impacting lives.
Councilor Penamra.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, that's a really good point. And I think that this resolution is very much in line with what we've already adopted into our comprehensive plan, specifically to educate residents and businesses about how to save energy and use renewable sources of energy. And also to basically lobby the state to improve climate action and use more renewable energy. And the state is responding to that. So I think this is very much in line with already adopted policy. And I think it's time for us to start acting.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Oh, thank you, Nicole. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda are city reports. Steph?
Just a few city manager reports. One is the obvious, the town hall experienced a fire a week ago. And that has displaced not only the city council meetings, but also the pantry operation there that was ongoing once a week. It's also displaced the Talent Business Alliance and MISO, who have offices in that building. And other public meetings, such as the planning commission, that are unable to proceed. The fire caused mostly smoke damage to the building. The heaviest damage was in the basement, although there is smoke damage throughout the structure. It was a close call. I want to bring to your attention that the quick action of Hector Flores and Hector Rocha, who were at the building, arriving there to set up for the council meeting, were the first ones to observe the potential for a fire in the building. They observed the smoke, and they took immediate action to make sure that the District 5 Fire Department responded, and they responded quickly to save that building. So thank you, Hector, and extend that to Hector Rocha as well. In the meantime, the pantry is planning to operate a mobile pantry in the parking lot of the town hall. We're relocating public meetings here. We are working with our insurance carrier and specialists in the rehabilitation of fire damaged buildings, smoke damaged buildings, to restore the building to use. It is a historic building. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So we need to take some special attention as to how that building is treated in terms of restoration and cleaning. We're conferring with specialists in the area, historic preservation, as a part of that effort. So it may be a while before we're back ready to occupy the building. We've terminated the electricity to the building on the recommendation of our insurance inspectors and fire staff. So that's pretty much the short story on the town hall incident. Two other things that are of importance to the council and the public. One is that we are entering our budget season. We currently have 3 budget meetings scheduled. The council will receive the draft budget this Friday. And it's a part of your, the budget committee meeting will be a part of the May 1st council meeting proceeding. So the budget message and the document will be out on Friday. Our finance director is putting some final touches to the budget as we speak. Also wanted to make everyone aware that the community development director, Kristen Mays, has left Talent and has taken a position with Jackson County as their planning manager. So we currently have the public works director and community development director positions vacant. I want to thank those staff members who have stepped up to take on assignments beyond their job assignment, beyond their regular duties, to help fill in some of the gaps. Where others are working to fill in some of the gaps as well. And we have contracted with the Rogue Valley Council of Government to assist us in managing some of the long-term planning projects that are in progress. That's all I have for you. City manager reports, I do have one quick urban renewal report. And that is that, we will be attending the peer committee meeting next week on Thursday, in continued pursuit of additional funding for our peer application for the Gateway area and adjacent downtown area infrastructure projects. We made a presentation at the last meeting, but they were unable to take action for administrative reasons. But we'll be there again this coming week to pursue that matter further. No other reports on urban.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to item number 6, which is committee and commission member appointments. Item 6.1, staff report.
You have a recommendation for appointment to the planning commission. I believe it's in your packet.
Great. I want to say that we had 2 applicants for the planning commission. Both of them were great applicants. We're in very fortunate times with the community involvement lately, and I suspect that is due to, in part, to some outreach that's happening from the city. And both applicants were really qualified, and so it was, I know, a tough decision for the planning commission to make. But they did make a recommendation to appoint Jason Clark to the position of the planning commission. So with that, I would ask, I seek consent from the council for that appointment. Council Penamarath?
Yes, are you ready for a motion?
I am.
I move to affirm the mayor's appointment of Jason Clark as a commissioner of the City of Talent Planning Commission for a 4-year term beginning April 24th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to affirm the mayor's appointment of Jason Clark as a commissioner of the City of Talent Planning Commission for a 4-year term beginning April 24th, 2024. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Is there anything on the consent calendar that council wishes to pull out for discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Byers.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for public hearing and adoption of ordinance 2024-948-0 for annexation of 6100 Culver Road to be included in the city limits. Staff report?
Mayor and members of the council, you have before you a public hearing and a possible adoption of an ordinance approving the annexation of school district property owned at 6100 Culver Road. It is a 43-acre parcel, or more than one parcel, located at that location. It's a parcel that's zoned appropriately for public facilities. The property was recently approved for an urban growth boundary amendment into the Talent UGB. The applicant is the Phoenix Talent School District, and they desire to move forward with the development of the property. The property is currently utilized by the school district. The uses include a school bus operations facility, 2 baseball fields, a softball field, 2 soccer fields, a cross-country running course, an agricultural education facility, parks, open space, and facilities and structures to serve the above uses. The parcel was created in 1942 via a warranty deed found in the county records. This property was lawfully created because the parcel was created by deed before 1973, enactment of zoning regulations in Jackson County, and prior to any land division regulations. The property was transferred to the Phoenix Town School District in 1965 via a bargain and sale deed recorded in Jackson County records. In 2023, the City of Talent approved ordinance 2023-967, amending the city's urban growth boundary and the comprehensive plan map designating the property as public facilities civic. The school district is requesting annexation to the City of Talent to move forward with improvements and development of the site. This annexation is required prior to any development on the project site. If annexation is approved, the district will be required to apply for a conditional use permit for future improvements on the site. A conditional use permit will require a public hearing before the planning commission. Conditions will be set for the development at that time. Prior to the annexation and development, the school district initiated a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessment. Phase 2 involves soil and groundwater investigations. The subject property was used for agricultural purposes as far back as 1910. An agronomy station administered by Oregon State University Extension Service used the site from 1911 to 1958. After 1958, the site was used for agricultural purposes until 1970, when the school district purchased the site. As a result of these uses, some concern has been expressed by local residents regarding the district's proposed use of a school, boys and girls club, and development of the recreational facilities on the site. The school district retained CBA planning to undertake an environmental review work, and a summary report is included in this packet on page 18. The school district and the city council conducted a joint meeting on March 21st, hosted by the district, to understand those environmental issues moving forward. And again, there's a technical memorandum in the public packet. The staff report is actually prepared by a former community development director, and she notes a number of findings that are required to be made and indicates those findings where the standard is met and those findings where the standard is not relevant. So you have that 5-page report in your packet. If you wish to proceed with the full activity of including this property in the city limits at your meeting tonight, we have prepared as an addendum to the information provided in the packet, a series of motions that would accommodate that. The city attorney and I prepared the motions late this afternoon, and we have had further conversation with the district this evening on the wording of the motions. And we can talk about those if you come to the point of deciding to try to do this in one evening. If you want to take action to approve at one meeting, you would need to first move to have the ordinance read in full, which I'm prepared to do. It's a page and a half. And then subsequently to move to approve the ordinance. But first, moving to authorize the city manager to add some language that we discussed with the district to the annexation agreement and authorize me to sign that agreement. So when we get to that point in the discussion, we can review those proposed motions more carefully. And with that, I will turn it over to the mayor to initiate the public hearing. I know there are a number of speakers who submitted their requests, and representatives from the school district are present.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any questions of staff? Before I open the public hearing, is there a legislative script for me? While you're looking that up, it's okay. While you're looking that up, I want to explain our recent changes to our speaker request forms. So there was a change in state law that said that what we offer in live meetings, we must also offer in Zoom meetings. And so our ability to pull speaker request forms off the virtual realm ends at about item number 4 on our agenda. So that's when we have to also stop taking speaker request forms in the chambers as well. So my apologies for anybody who came in late and filled out a speaker request form and I wasn't able to take it because I can't also take it off of line. So in compliance with state law, this is the new way to conduct meetings when you're doing hybrid, and we are doing hybrid tonight. So, speaking of which, do we have any online speaker request forms?
Or I didn't hear.
What's that?
There are no speaker
Okay.
request forms online.
Great, thank you. All right. So I'm going to read a script and then we'll open up the public hearing. The Talent City Council has the authority to hold legislative hearings in accordance with Oregon Public Meeting Law as described in ORS 192.610 through 192.710. The Talent City Council makes the final decision to approve, modify, or deny. The city planner has determined that the approval criteria that apply to the following application or issue currently before the city council are as follows.
Finding?
Yes, please.
A copy of the required consent to annexation forms, including the required non-revocable consent, have been provided with the application. The standard was met. All required taxes, including those paid to special districts, are current as of the date of the application. A copy of the most recent tax statement is provided demonstrating compliance with the provision of this section. The finding is that standard was met. A copy of the required boundary description and map prepared in accordance with ORS 308.225 by a registered land surveyor is provided with this request. And the finding is that standard is met. The subject property is within the UGB as approved in 2023 by the city council. Property is adjacent to the city limits along the easterly property line. The applicant has made a written request for concurrent consideration to zone the property as public land and facilities zone that is consistent with the comprehensive plan designation of public facilities. The plan is presently served by basic urban services, including sewer and water. The property currently has irrigation rights for 42.8 acres from the Talent Irrigation District. The Rogue Valley Sewer Services provides sanitary sewer services to the site. The property fronts Culver Road, which is maintained as a rural major collector. As part of the UGB amendment, the city of Talent agreed that would take jurisdiction of Culver Road as a part of any future annexation. There's a related traffic safety study that's referenced here, and the finding is that the standard is met. Finding that the subject property has a City of Talent, parks and public facilities, comprehensive plan designation, and a zone exclusive farm use, Jackson County's zoning map. One annexed to the City of Talent. The city is required to assign a zoning designation consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. considering the current comprehensive plan designation. The city's public lands and facilities with the comprehensive plan map, which shall be. The property owner accepts this designation and does not request an alternative zoning designation. Therefore, a request for rezoning is not required and the standard is met. It is not applicable. Approval standards indicate that an annexation may be approved if the proposed request for annexation conforms to the following approval criteria or can be made to conform through the imposition of conditions. So A, the land is in the city's urban growth boundary. And B, the land is currently contiguous for a distance of 60 feet or more with the present city limits. That standard is met. The proposed zoning for the annexed area is in conformance with the indicated on a comprehensive plan map and or adopted master plan map, and the project is proposed concurrently with the annexation is an allowed use within the proposed zone. That finding is met. And that following infrastructure, the infrastructure as follows, can be provided to and through subject property at the appropriate stage of development or sooner if determined necessary in advance of by staff. One, adequate facilities for the provision of water to the site as determined by the Public Works Department and our city engineer. Two, adequate transportation of sewage from the site to the wastewater treatment plant as determined by Rogue Valley Sewer Services. And three, adequate storm drainage as determined by the Public Works Department and our city engineer. The finding is that condition is met. E, adequate transportation can and will be provided to and through the subject property at the appropriate stage of development or sooner if determined to be necessary on the advice of staff. The purpose of this standard is to ensure that transportation facilities are extended to adjacent lands that are also available for annexation, so they may not be immediately eligible. For the purposes of this section, adequate transportation for annexations consists of vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian, and transit transportation meeting the following standards. One, a 20-foot wide paved access exists for vehicular transportation or can and will be constructed along the full frontage of or through the project site to the nearest fully improved collector or arterial street. All streets adjacent to the annexed area shall be improved at a minimum to half-street standard with a minimum 20-foot wide driving surface. The city may, after assessing the impact of the development, require the full improvement of streets adjacent to the annexed area. All streets located within the annexed area shall be fully improved. The finding is that the applicant is proposing vehicular transportation improvements consistent with the required finding and the standard is met. Where future street dedications are indicated on the city's required street connections, maps in the transportation system plan or adopted master plan, or when required by the city, provision shall be made for the dedication and improvement of these streets and be included with the petition to annex. This indicates that the project site has frontage along Culver Road. Culver Road is currently a county maintained rural major collector. As a part of the UGB amendment, the city of Talent agreed to take jurisdiction of Culver Road upon future annexation. So the standard is met. Next finding is that the proposed project site has frontage on Culver Road, which is considered a rural major collector. Once annexed to the city, the frontage on Culver Road will become city limits and will be classified as a collector street. The street will not be an arterial street and therefore does not require bike lanes. The future Wagner Creek Street extension will be built with pedestrian and cycling facilities for the entire length of the street for safe pedestrian and bicycle access. So this standard is met. Item 4, for pedestrian transportation, safe and accessible pedestrian facilities exist or can and will be constructed. Full sidewalk improvements shall be provided on one side adjacent to the annexation for all streets and adjacent to the proposed annexed area. Sidewalks shall be provided as required by code on all streets within the annexation area. The applicant has proposed adequate pedestrian and bicycle improvements in phases that correspond with the development impacts and proposed uses of the subject property. So this finding is met. Where the project site is within a quarter of a mile of an existing sidewalk, the sidewalks from the project site shall be constructed to extend and connect to the existing system. No site development proposal is part of this request. The subject property is located within a quarter mile from an existing sidewalk, and upon the site development will be connected to the existing facility as required in this section. Thus, the finding is met. For transit transportation, should transit service be available to the site or likely to be extended to the site in the future based on information from the local transit provider? Provision shall be made for construction of adequate transit facilities such as bus shelters and bus turnout lanes. All required transportation improvements shall be constructed and installed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any new structures on the annexed property. No site development is proposed as this request. There are currently no transit services available to the subject property. It is not likely to be extended to the site. However, adequate bicycle and pedestrian facilities will be provided by the applicant in accordance with site development. So the finding is that the standard is met. One or more of the following standards are met. Proposed annexation area will be zoned a residential district in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and there is less than a 5-year supply of vacant redevelopable land in the proposed land use classification within the current city limits. Redevelopable land means land zoned for residential use on which development has already occurred, but on which due to present or expected market forces, there exists the likelihood that existing development will be converted to more intensive residential uses during the planned period. The 5-year supply should be calculated from the most current adopted vacant and redevelopable land inventory or the inventory in the housing element of the comprehensive plan. The subject property is not zoned residential, nor will it be as a part of this request, so the standard is not applicable. Another standard that is found to be not applicable is that the proposed lot or lots will be zoned a commercial district under the comprehensive plan. Next item is that a current or probable public health hazard exists due to lack of full city sanitary sewer or water services. And the finding is that no public health hazard exists on the subject property. The site has sanitary sewer and water service to the site. So this standard has been met. Existing development in the proposed annexation has adequate water and sanitary sewer service, or the service will become adequate within 1 year. The subject property has adequate water and sanitary sewer services available, so this standard is not applicable. The area proposed for annexation has existing City of Talent water or sanitary sewer service extended, connected, and in use, and a signed consent to annexation agreement has been filed and accepted by the City of Talent. before the standard has been met. Two more. There is inadequate infrastructure that is unduly preventing development of UGB lands, and annexation will provide a means to extend infrastructure. The subject property has adequate infrastructure and will have adequate infrastructure upon development. The standard is not applicable. And finally, the lot or lots proposed for annexation are an island completely surrounded by lands within the city limits. And the finding is that this property is adjacent to the city limits on the easterly side of the property and is not an island. Thus, the finding is that the standard is not applicable. Based upon the information submitted, the Talent Community Development Department finds that the applicant has provided information demonstrating that the proposed annexation meets or can meet the criteria of the Talent Zoning Code.
Thank you, Gary. Evidence and testimony in this hearing must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the city zoning code, comprehensive plan, subdivision code, or other applicable land use and development related regulations that the person believes applies to this decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient clarity and detail to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond accordingly to the issues preclude appeal from the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Before the end of the hearing, any participant may request a continuance. In addition, whether or not there is a continuance, a participant may request that the record of the proceedings remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing. The city council will consider whether or not they will continue the hearing or leave the record open for a specified length of time for new written testimony or evidence. When called to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and residential address for the public record. Please direct your comments to the applicable criteria as identified by city staff. The following time limits are allotted for public testimony. Applicant, 15 minutes. Individuals, 5 minutes. An individual representing a group, 10 minutes. Applicant rebuttal, 10 minutes. After listening to testimony and considering the evidence, the city council may vote to approve with conditions, or deny the application unless the matter is continued or tabled to another date-specific meeting. If you have any questions or do not understand the procedure, please raise your hand now and ask. All right. Thank you. You're a pretty handy guy to have around, Dave. Thanks so much. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:45 and invite the applicant forward. And Hector will give you a microphone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Jay Harlan, CSA Plan for the Office of Record Jay Harlan with CSA Planning with offices at 4497 Brown Ridge, where the CSA Planning is the agent of record for the school district in the annexation and zone change before you this evening. Don't really have a lot of comments. I think the city manager went through the criteria, staff found the criteria satisfied, so I don't have a lot to add. Just want to speak to a couple things briefly. One is a clarification on the staff report. In there, it talked about a conditional use permit for future development. That's true of some of the uses, but some of the uses in the zoning district that are, it's a phased project. Some of those are just subject to some of them a type 2 site plan review. Some would be a type 3 site plan review, and others would be a conditional use permit. And that's just kind of the way zoning districts apply, where you have a mix of different uses on the site. When you come in for that, and you apply the procedure that's in the code. So just wanted to clarify that. Staff report wasn't necessarily wrong. There's just a little more to the story. The other thing the city manager mentioned was the
the environmental work, and there was a study session with council and school district. School district stipulated to a condition of approval for to basically address that issue. So we would be fine with condition of approval that would require the district to enter the voluntary ODEQ's voluntary cleanup program prior to development, and then obtain a no further action letter for the specific new use or commencement of occupancy of that new use. So we have no issue with that. The agreement, the consent to annex agreement was prepared by the district's land use specialist, Carrie Richter. And the terms, I think, are laid out pretty well in the consent to annex. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I would request the council approve the annexation so that the district can move forward with, I think, what are a lot of really good facilities and opportunities for kids in the community with this site. So I'm happy to answer any questions specifically. Obviously, my role is a little more technical, so if you have technical questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's, at this time, I'm going to start calling up speaker request forms. I'm going to start with what looks like a group of people. So it looks like the coach and some. And what I'd like to do is call you up individually by name rather than put you in a group, because that'll limit your time. So, and anytime you bring students who want to hear from all of you. So definitely going to call you up one by one, okay? So Chris Gallegos, you're first and you have 5 minutes.
Shortly, I want to hear,
Point of order really quickly. Does he need a microphone for the record?
Oh, yeah. Hector will provide you with a microphone,
We're coming up with.
one that doesn't sound like we're in a snowstorm. Or in a bad video, whatever.
Chris Gallegos, 105 Meadowview Drive, Phoenix, Oregon. I had a bunch of things listed out, a little more testimonial things about what's going on with with having the space okayed. And then I started thinking about the things I was writing down. I think it'd be a lot more imperative and important that you guys hear it from the people that are actually going to be using it a lot more than the coaches. And so I've invited some of the players to give you some of the facts and details about what's going on and why it needs to be done for these kids in our community. Let me say one thing. I'm also the director of coaching for Southern Oregon Soccer Academy, which is a Phoenix Talent club. Right now we have over 350 kids signed up. 85% of those kids are Phoenix Talent students. And I don't know if you drive by on Monday through Friday, the soccer fields are loaded. And so the facilities are great. Updates, as you probably figured, need to happen, and we're just growing and it's getting bigger and bigger. So come on.
So I'm going to go ahead and call you up by
Sorry.
name and just so we'll go in the order that I've got it here. So Omar Cervantes. And Omar, if you could state your name and your city for the record.
I'm Omar Cervantes in Talent, Oregon. So like our coach said, there is 350 plus soccer players in the Phoenix Talent community that are in SOSA. And 85% of them are in Phoenix Talent. And opening up the space in Culver would be a great opportunity for us because it gives us more space to practice and improve with club and high school. And it'll be great for the community because it'll save parents with gas from driving from Phoenix Talent to possibly Lithia Fields, which sometimes is very overcrowded and we get kicked off of those fields. So opening up Culver will give us space to practice on those fields and just to use the space more.
Thank you. The next speaker on this request form is Christopher. And Christopher, I'm going to ask you to state your name for the record. I don't want to take a stab at your last name here. So go ahead and come on up and get the microphone, and you'll state your name and your city for the record.
I'm Christopher Olsthausen, and I'm a resident of Talent, Oregon. The Cloverfield is a very nice location, and it's not as busy as the US Cellular Fields, where it's very packed and other teams have that space the whole year. So if you're trying to practice with your team, you'll go and you can't practice there. But the Cloverfield is a very good option to have open. But if the weather is bad and we don't want to mess up the field, excuse me, we don't want to mess up the field or damage it, and it's not always just in the best condition, we want to have an option to play somewhere and practice. And I think everyone should have that option too.
Thank you. And next is Luis Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Luis Rodriguez, and I'm from Phoenix. But as my friends have said, these fields, they're special to me. I don't know if they can relate, but these fields, I've been playing on these fields ever since I grew with the sport, ever since I was 3 or 4. These have been the fields that I have gone to my whole life and have played every single club season. I have been with these fields, and just hearing about the opportunity these fields have to expand and grow, that just makes me happy, considering also like the new generation players, the growing generation, just having a nice field, considering, as my friend has said, in Medford, the other fields, they're packed all the time, and it's a pain showing up and just being told off to it's reserved, and there's always people there, and it's nice to have a different field complex to show up to that is just, it's always there, that'll always be there, and it's open. So,
Thank you. Alvin Olson.
Hello, my name is Alvin Olson. I'm a resident of Talent, Oregon. And to dive more into depth about, going to US Cellular Fields, which is rented out by major soccer clubs who have tons of money, and you rock up there anytime Monday through Friday in the evenings, you're kind of, kicked out, and they just want you gone because they pay all the money for it, and you don't really have much places to play and progress your skills. And the future generation, there's been so many kids that I've interacted with, I've got to know, and that are amazing players, and they have a great future ahead of them. And I believe that putting in turf fields at Culver would help progress their skills even more, and make a great impact on their lives. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. The next speaker request form is for Matt Gutmiller. Hi, Matt, if you can state your name and city for the record. Actually, I think you have to state your address.
Yeah, not a problem. My name is Matt Guthmiller. I live at 3951 Culver Road, technically a Phoenix address. I have something prepared, but I wanted to start by saying I am a 1986 graduate of Mrs. Riggs Love's preschool that was held in the building next door. So I'm glad to hear that everybody was okay and the building itself is in good shape. So hopefully it can get fixed and back to its condition that it was before. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm here as a representative of Phoenix Talent Little League. I've been a board member for 7 years. As we speak, there's roughly 70 kids playing on the current fields tonight. 70 of our 150 kids on the current fields tonight. With that number of players, that puts about 300 people at the ballpark right now. I am here on behalf of them because they can't be. I can tell you about the confidence that youth sports can give children, or the lessons they can learn as a group. But mostly I want to say that there's roughly 370 people right now that aren't worried about the stresses of life, but are together enjoying a game with their families. Phoenix Talent Little League has been a nonprofit organization in our district for almost 60 years, and is one of 2 Phoenix Talent sports organizations. It's served our community very well in this time. The project potential concepts that annexing this property could give is really exciting for us as a group. And it could change and improve baseball and softball for our community for the foreseeable future. It could give our kids a place to play and those families the escape of the stresses of everyday life. It's an exciting opportunity for us. With the current lease that we have with the City of Talent ending soon and possible conversation about future plans with that property. If this annexation happens, it allows us to continue conversation with the school district to potentially create a long-term option with that. So I would ask that you would consider this annexation so we can continue to have those conversations and see what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker request form is for Greg Rowe. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello. I don't know if you hear me. Okay. My name is Greg Rowe. I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Rogue Valley. One of our locations is actually at the Talent Elementary School and at the Talent Middle School. First of all, thank you for allowing us to speak. We are very honored to work with the school district. I work with several school districts, and we are blessed to work with the Phoenix Talent School District. We are very lucky here to have them as partners. For those who have not interacted with our club, we are the largest after-school provider for Phoenix Talent School District. We currently have clubs at Talent Elementary School, Talent Middle School, and Phoenix Elementary. Throughout the past year, our organization has had the privilege of enriching 3,500 kids' lives here in the Rogue Valley. We're averaging somewhere right around 200 something here in this school district. And our largest site is a Talent Elementary School and Talent Middle School. Our dedication to serving the community spans over 3 decades. You may not know that, but for more than 35 years, we've had an impactful presence here in Talent. It's worth noting that during that tenure, there's been scarce few kids that have not been touched by the positive work we've had. We've touched almost every kid that goes through Talent Elementary School. Not only that, but during COVID, we provided on-site distance learning for children of essential workers, in addition to those kids who cannot learn from home or had lost their homes due to the fire. We were literally the last options for many of these kids, and we had kids literally going to distance learning and living out of their car. Our little nonprofit also raised about $130,000 for the residents of Talent. And we did everything from buying beds to first and last month's rent. And we're very proud to support our community. As you can see, we're a longstanding partner in the community. For more than 15 years, we've been diligently searching for land to construct a standalone clubhouse for the children of Talent, but unfortunately, our efforts have been fruitless. The high prices of available land or unsuitable locations have presented insurmountable challenges for us in this quest to build a clubhouse here in Talent. Our priority has always been to establish a club here in Talent itself, given the status that it's our largest club. The Culver Road property presents a rare opportunity for us to establish a club for our children akin to the successful ones we currently have in Grants Pass and Cave Junction. Additionally, its proximity to the district's bus barn facilitates easy transportation for students from nearby elementary schools and middle schools to have access to that club. Our plan is to build a 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art clubhouse with a IT lab, a STEM lab, art center, teen center, gym space, and a USDA kitchen, along with many other amenities that our children deserve and need, as you can see from our pictures that I presented to you. I've included the drawings and just a rough drawing. One of the pictures is from the Salem Club, which just was brand new built, was built up there on roughly about the same size. This property has a lot of amazing potential with all the facilities that are being considered, with the Boys and Girls Club being one of the cornerstones. We feel that our children here in Talent deserve a club of their own that they can be proud of. I can't think of a group of children after what they've gone through the last 5 years, through COVID and through the fires, especially these kids here in Talent. If anybody deserves a new clubhouse of their own, it's theirs. We only operate from 2:30 to 5:30. We're not noisy neighbors. We have no problems with any of our other facilities. We're also a community center. We pride ourselves on being that. As you see, that gym is pretty huge. One of those pictures is of that gymnasium. We are all open to the City of Talent and any other organizations using that space for events if they need to, or whatever activities that happen at the club. Grants Pass and Cave Junction use our clubs all the time. We also hope that the other two clubs are also certified as Red Cross shelters. You wouldn't think you need a Red Cross shelter here in Talent, but you never know. So, there's so many things we can do with this building, and I can't think of a group of kids more deserving who have survived more than these kids. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker request form is Brent Berry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff. I first want to just acknowledge last week, scary moment with the town hall over there too. Fire is scary, and thank you, Hector, for your quick actions. I know that could have been a lot worse if it wasn't caught early. Also, thank you for staff to reschedule. It was great to work with everybody to get this on the docket as soon as possible. So appreciate it. I shared with Gary as well, anything the school district can do to help with space, tech, whatever you need to do. We're definitely partners in that, and we offer that to you guys.
Thank you, Brent.
You bet. Wow, this is exciting. I just want to thank you for your time and your consideration. When Gary was reading that, I just felt a wave of, I don't even know what it was. It was planning, discussions. I mean, several years of just kind of for this moment, really. And so a lot of emotion and a lot of remembering kind of all the work that's been going into this, and a lot of it was with the people that are here. We're hopeful that this will be the next positive step in annexing the property that we believe will serve our district and our whole community very well, in the form of expanding athletic and activity opportunities, expanding educational opportunities for special programs such as ODP, valued partners creating spaces for youth activities and affordable after-school care, which you just heard about, and proper facilities for our bus drivers at First Student, who play a vital role in serving our kids each and every day. Leading up to this, as Gary mentioned earlier, our team has been proactive in prepping for development, and at the request of the council, doing due diligence on the soil and environment of the property. A few weeks ago, we had a joint meeting with Phoenix Talent School Board and members of the staff at Talent and Council, and our consultant shared the results of phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessment investigations, including analytical results. Mr. Williams, who helped us with that, shared that he does not see any imminent risk of human health based on soil samples results, and indicated that relatively low levels of residual pesticides in shallow soil can be managed and mitigated in conjunction with redevelopment of the property. And with that said, and as you know, we've already entered and are committed to working with DEQ and doing a voluntary cleanup pathway. We've had many exciting times in our district over the last several years, and I think this is one of them as well. I am hopeful for this step in the process, this next step in the process, and as many others. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brent. Next speaker is Katie McCormick. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Katie McCormick, and my address 1695 Summer Place in Talent. Let's see. I'm a Talent resident and a staff member of the Phoenix Talent School District, but more importantly, I'm a proud parent of 2 students who attend the Outdoor Discovery Program. I'm here tonight to encourage you all to approve the annexation, to move forward with the development of 43 acres of land on Culver Road, and to support the Phoenix Talent School District with their plans to create new facilities and structures, and what I consider most important, a much needed expansion to the Outdoor Discovery Program. ODP, as we call it, is different from a traditional classroom setting because we focus on multi-tiered classrooms, volunteerism, community involvement, project-based learning, hands-on experiences, family engagement, and weekly field studies. ODP is a significant facet to our community because it's an alternative educational program that's able to provide educational options that cater to diverse learning styles, interests, and needs. By fostering creativity, critical thinking, and a deeper engagement with learning, ODP contributes to a more inclusive and adaptable educational setting. At ODP, our students participate in peer learning, where our older students mentor our younger students, thereby fostering a collaborative learning environment. Multi-level classrooms encourage social interaction among students of different ages. Younger students look up to older peers as role models, while older students can develop leadership skills by assisting younger ones. Unlike traditional school settings, ODP is able to group students according to their abilities or interests for specific tasks or projects. This flexible grouping allows for differentiated instruction and ensures that each student receives appropriate support as well as challenges. Our ODP community has been thriving for the past 17 years. The standardized test scores of our students are higher than those of students in mainstream classrooms. Every year, there's a lottery and a wait list for students wanting to get into our program. In addition, the continuation of ODP through 8th grade is something that's being talked about with the Culver Road project and is also something that every ODP parent wants. Having seen both of my children excel both academically and socially for the past 6 years has been so rewarding. This program means the world to me, to my family, and to every other ODP parent as well. We will continue to wait and wait very patiently and follow the steps to ensure an ODP school building is built on the Culver Road property. Until then, we look forward to staying in our little green schoolhouse on the corner of West Wagner and West Main Street until that time comes. Thank you.
Erin Mahaney?
Sure, I need this. I still have my teacher voice. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Erin Mahaney, 1008 Miramar Avenue in Medford. I was asked to speak this evening by my former teaching partner who is now teaching at ODP. I taught there the youngest class for the last 16 years. I retired in June. But she has ODP open house this evening and couldn't be here, so I said that I would come on her behalf. Just a little, and I'm here to speak obviously in favor of the annexation with the hope that ODP will end up on that property. And a little bit about the history of the program. We were started 17 years ago by a group of parents of Talent Elementary students who approached the school district with a request for an alternative setting to a traditional classroom. They began by collecting signatures at the farmers market and created a proposal for a project-based environmental school. After presenting to the school board, the board agreed to make space available in our current building across the street from Talent Elementary, which is owned by the district. 16 years ago, the Outdoor Discovery Program opened its doors to serve 54 students in 2 multi-age classrooms spanning grades K through 5. From the beginning, the ODP program naturally evolved a place-based educational philosophy. Place-based education is the process of using the local community and environment as a starting point to teach concepts in language arts, mathematics, social studies, science, and other subjects across the curriculum. Place-based education teaches students an appreciation for the natural world and creates a heightened commitment to serving as active contributing citizens. At ODP, reading, writing, public speaking, and geography skills are heavily embedded into project work. The original proposal described the classrooms that would be permeable to the community, and we have fulfilled this vision by engaging in studies of local rivers, forests, mountains, climate, history, and biomes through the lens of talent and the Rogue Valley. Students are able to meet local citizens who are actively engaged in meeting community needs through service and action projects. They visited the animal shelter, Talent Maker City. They've worked on maintaining bioswales, learned about local history with visits to Stern Cemetery and the Talent History Museum. From the beginning, there's been a strong desire for this type of education within our community, and we fielded more interest than we were able to meet with the limitations of our current space. Our dream has always been to move our program to the district's Culver Road property, where we would be able to expand our space with room for more students and a large garden. There's no better location for a place-based program than this property with its rich soil where students can learn about the Wagner Creek watershed by learning within view of Wagner Beach. We're excited about the potential for growth, and we feel this is an exciting opportunity for the City of Talent to be able to offer an education as unique and special as this community itself. Thank you.
Next speaker is Joy Harlan. Joy Harlan? Oh, is it Jay?
Yeah.
Jay, sorry. Come on up. Jay Harlan? Oh, you have a speaker request form. Did you know that?
Yeah, so they told me I needed to do it.
Yeah. Well done. You're good. Yeah, okay.
So far, I have nothing to rebut.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And so are there any questions at this point of the applicant or? I just have one question of staff. It sounds to me from Jay's comments that he made that you have already reached out to the school district about the additional item that we put on today.
Yes, and we have a slight modification to item number 1.
Is it still as proposed here?
It's modified from what's proposed here, and I can read it. It's very slight.
Yeah, I think for the purpose of the school district to hear it would be great. Yes,
We've conferred with them, and this is the language that
that
we've talked with them.
that you all agreed
So,
on.
The first motion that we're recommending is that I move to authorize the city manager to add the following provision to the parties' annexation agreement.
Excuse me, Gary, just 1 second. Hector, can you close the door? Yeah. Oh. That could be a little better.
And to execute the agreement after signature by the authorized school district representative. And that additional provision would read as follows. The district will enter voluntary cleanup program with DEQ, the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, prior to submitting a development application. The rest remains the same. That is, and will secure a no further action letter from DEQ prior to occupancy or commencement of a new use as defined in the annexation agreement between the city and the school district. So the change is the proper methodology going forward prior to submitting the development. That is that they would enter into a voluntary cleanup program with DEQ.
There's a name for that program.
Voluntary
Is it
cleanup.
cleanup pathway, isn't it? Cleanup pathway? Okay, cleanup program. And that is added to the, motion, is that right?
That would be
That's the language you want to add to the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to give this to whoever decides that they want to, because I jotted it down. All right, are there any other questions or comments? With that, I'll entertain a motion. Who's gonna? All right, Councilor Panama, here's the additional language if you didn't get it.
Got it. Okay, I move to authorize the city manager to add the following provision to the parties' annexation agreement and to execute the agreement after signature by the authorized school district representative. Okay, the district will enter into a voluntary cleanup program with the DEQ prior to submitting a development application and will secure a no further action letter from DEQ prior to occupancy or commencement of a new use as defined in the annexation agreement between the city and the school district.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take that back if I may.
I just.
Okay. So the motion is to authorize the city manager to add the following provision to the parties' annexation agreement and to execute the agreement after signature by the authorized school district representative. The district will enter into voluntarily a cleanup, the voluntary cleanup program with DEQ prior to submitting a development application and will secure a no further action letter from DEQ prior to occupancy or commencement of a new use as defined in annexation agreement between the city and the school district. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Hector. So I'll entertain the second motion. Anybody? Council Panama?
I move to have ordinance 2024-984-0 for annexation of 6100 Culver Road read in full and then by title.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have ordinance 2024-984-0 for annexation of 6100 Culver Road read in full and then by title. Did we decide that we were going to do that tonight? I thought we were going to read.
I would read.
Yeah.
I think we were going to read, I think we decided in the last minute we would do it by title only tonight and by title only in the next meeting. So,
I'll defer to the city.
yeah,
You can do it either way. If you want to do it in one meeting, you have to read the entire ordinance now. If you want to do it in two meetings, do a first reading now, title only. And second reading, title only. That's the ordinance.
all right, I'll leave it to Councilor Penamara on your motion.
Well, I just wonder what's the preference? I don't have a preference whether it's 2 meetings or one, but do other people have a preference?
Is there any preference with staff? I think we talked about agreements being signed in between one and the other.
Yeah, staff, if you can, if you're comfortable with doing it in one meeting, and not rolling it over again to the next meeting, that would be the preference of staff.
Well, if nobody objects to that, let's go ahead and go with that. I don't think, the school district will argue with doing it in a single night, so, let's go ahead and make everybody happy. So we'll, motion is as, stated by Council Penamara. Is there a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second to have ordinance 2024-984-0 for annexation at 6100 Culver Road, read in full and then by title. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Collet,
Yes.
Counselor Panemarov,
Yes.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Pestizo,
Yes.
Counselor Byers,
Yes.
and Counselor Para Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you, Hector.
So fortunately, the ordinance itself is, about a third of the length of the claim. So you have before you ordinance number 2024-984-0. An ordinance annexing one parcel located at 6100 Culver Road, totaling 43 acres and rezoning the parcel from Jackson County exclusive farm use to city public lands and facilities. Whereas the owner of the parcel located at 6100 Culver Road, totaling 43 acres, has consented in writing to annexation and subsequent rezone from county to city zoning. And whereas the subject property is addressed at 6100 Culver Road is specifically identified as tax lot 1000 on Jackson County Assessor Map 38-T, no, 38-1W 22D. And whereas the subject property is currently zoned Jackson County exclusive farm use, and the property will be rezoned to city public lands and facilities. And whereas the subject property is designated public facility civic on the City of Talent Comprehensive Plan Map, consistent with the proposed city zoning of public lands and facilities. And whereas although city services are available to the subject property, annexation does not commit the city or any public or private utility to provide services to the property at taxpayers' expense. And whereas the City Council of the City of Talent, as per 18.190.060 D1, hearings, a minimum of 2 hearings, one before the Planning Commission and one before the City Council, are required for all type 4 applications, except annexations, where only a hearing by the City Council is required, has been posted for 2 consecutive weeks and held a public hearing on April 24th. Today's date is 20. We'll make that change, 2024. And whereas the Department of Land Development and Conservation has been properly notified of this proposed annexation request. And whereas the City Council and the Phoenix Talent School District held a joint meeting on March 21st, 2024 to discuss the annexation and environmental documents prepared for the district. And whereas the City Council finds that during the public hearing on April 24th, 2024, evidence was presented and the public was given an opportunity to comment. Now, therefore, the City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, the City Council declares and proclaims that the territory described in Exhibit A and depicted in Exhibit B is annexed to the City of Talent. Section 2, the zoning of the above described property shall be amended from Jackson County exclusive farm use to the City of Talent public lands and facilities as Exhibit C in public facilities civic on the comprehensive plan map. And Section 3, this application complies with the comprehensive plan map and ORS 222.120 attached as Exhibit D and incorporated herein by reference. And Section 4, the city recorder is directed to A, file the following with the Secretary of State and Department of Revenue. Sub A copy of this ordinance. Sub B, a copy of the landowner's statement of consent. And B, mail a copy of this ordinance to Jackson County, to all service providers and to any other parties entitled to receive this notice of its adoption. Duly enacted by the City Council in open session on April 24th, 2024 by the following vote. And then I am to read again the title. An ordinance annexing one parcel located at 6100 Culver Road, totaling 43 acres, and rezoning the parcel from Jackson County exclusive farm use to city public lands and facilities.
I want to state the following vote after the vote. Okay. Item, motion number 3, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Pestizo.
I move to approve ordinance 2-24-984-0 for the annexation of 6100 Culver Road to be included in the city limits.
Second.
I think there's a typo.
That be a 0?
Oh,
It
sorry.
should be a 0. Yeah, so you go ahead and make the motion
Zero.
again.
I move to approve ordinance 2-24.
No, 2024. Yeah,
Oh,
no dash.
Oh, Oh, I see. I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about at the end.
We had the same number here.
Okay. Okay, I move to approve ordinance 2024-284 is that an O at the end?
Oh,
O, for the ordinance, for the annexation of 6100 Culver Road to be included in the city limits.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-984-O for the annexation of 6100 Culver Road to be included in the city limits. Counselor Penamara?
Yeah, do we need an amendment to correct the public hearing date at all, or is that just scrivener's?
It's a Scrivener error.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Coley,
Yes.
Counselor Nemiroff,
Yes.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Pestizo,
Yes.
Counselor Byers,
Yes.
and Counselor Prime Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. So that concludes this matter, but I'm hoping to ask for the little indulgence. I have a few words I'd like to say. One of them is that this is part of a really important long process in our state called the regional problem solving. So 20 years ago, officials around the valley identified lands to annex in order to preserve agricultural lands. This is no small thing to bring our first urban reserves into annexing into our city. I just want to give a shout out to Don Watson, who was the only other elected official in this room that worked on the regional problem solving in the very, very beginning. She and myself both served on the council at the time when we were part of a group of people that envisioned that property in partnership with the school district for expansion of fields. It's particularly gratifying to see the plans expand from those early visions of play ball fields to include Little League fields, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Outdoor Discovery Program. It's been just amazing generosity to open your lands up for those critical programs in our community. And it's such an important piece of what we consider for that important annexation. I want to thank the school district for your cooperation and dedication to transparency around the concerns that were raised in our community about the former use of that property. It is a demonstration of your commitment to your community, the way that you proceeded to secure an understanding of the best use of that property and its ability to serve our community in the future. By inviting us to join you at a joint session where we got to learn the great work that you're doing on the environmental front was, the generosity that we have come to expect from the school district, and we're really grateful for that. Also, for informing the families the way you did. It's just so impressive and such a commentary of the great leadership that's at the school district. For voluntarily working with the DEQ, another amazing demonstration of the dedication that the school district has to the well-being of all of our residents. And also for the ease in which you made an agreement with us to provide us with the documents that we know you're gonna do. But for us to create a record that we can stand on when our community asks us the questions that have been asked of us, to be able to demonstrate with the record all of the incredible steps that you've taken to make sure that everybody can enjoy that piece of property with total confidence is something that we needed, and we really appreciate the ease of cooperation and your dedication to not just the school, but also to your partner community on this. We really are very grateful. So with that, welcome to the City of Talent.
If I could just add something, there several times, several people have referred to the joint meeting on the 21st of March with the school district, and the attorney for the school district asked if we would agree to include the recording of that meeting in our minutes so that there are no possible legal hiccups here. And if there's no objection on the part of the council, then.
I think we had agreed to it prior to the meeting, by the way, just, yeah,
Okay,
just
good.
for his, yeah, yep. All right, thanks again. I've had a request for a 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back to the agenda at 8:37.
Yeah, personally, I'm cold. Are you cold?
Yes. But
Do
I've
you
been
want a
cold the
jacket?
whole time. Well, you're cold.
Yeah, but I'm fine. I think I'll be okay.
I can run and grab one out of my car.
I think I'll be all right.
It wakes me up to jiggle my legs.
Yeah.
I've been doing it all night.
Oh, it's so interesting with the fan. Hey, next time I'll bring a cushion.
I'm gonna call us to order here.
I know. We're gonna be here. Well,
That rogue Council Penamarath and that disruptive attorney.
Counselor, not counselor, Dave.
That's funny. All right. How you doing over there, Hector? You ready? Okay. So we're on we'll call the meeting back to order at 8:38. We're on 9.1 review format of FY 24-25. Council goals, priorities, actions, schedule the workshop. Staff?
Mayor and members of the council, while trying to advance from the workshop where you talked about goals and action plan.
So I just want to say that this is what
Kind of working in the dark.
this is what every user of the community center goes through. And then trying to turn it back on without flipping the switches, which say do not
Don't
flip.
touch 'em, yeah.
It's like, it's pretty funny. Okay,
So I came up with this format going forward for the goals and action plan, and some of the action items I'm just not familiar with enough from the past to understand kind of how to explain them or what effort it would take to put them together. So I was thinking perhaps another short workshop, maybe an hour, to kind of go over those so I can understand them better. But I wanted to see if this format is better or worse than your current format. What I tried to show is not only the effort level, but the priority level, a timeline, and then put in a column for a related item. Because a lot of these are interrelated. And I'm thinking about perhaps a different format to try to show better how they're related, but you know, when I came to the conclusion of putting this together, you know, we now have 17 goals and 73 action items. And that's a lot to manage, even over a multi-year period. So I would like to have another workshop with the council to talk about paring it down a bit, breaking it up into multi-years and having a better understanding about what some of these action items are. I thought about doing that as a part of the budget meeting, but you know, I know the mayor's not a part of the budget committee, but could attend. It's fun. And then when I was, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I would have an issue with that. Yeah, I would rather, I mean, this is, the goals is the mayor's opportunity to lean into, or really to help express the platform, that, you know, the election happens on. So, I definitely would not want that to happen at the budget committee where I'm not at the dais. Yeah.
So the, you know, the upcoming budget meeting, for May next week, is, our intent is to present you with the budget document, but not get into the detail. But, you know, have a broad discussion of what the fiscal issues of the city are, and then get into the budget detail subsequent. So that, it seems that that might be an opportunity to talk about goals at the same week. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And then what I put on page 95 here are some suggestions on immediate goals, short-term goals, which are related to the city's fiscal stability and organizational stability, as well as the Gateway and Gaines Road projects. Those all seem to be the more immediate issues that we need to be addressed.
Did you have a question, Counselor Byers?
Just a little additional input. I really like the formatting of the goals that you've shared. I'm wondering if in an effort to consolidate action items, if we might be able to add a tracking component. So something like increasing tree canopy, I see it listed multiple times. Can we get it down to one action item and maybe code it so we can see where it cross references and supports other items? And then I would also be curious to identify potential action items that either impact the medium-term financial status, either in a really positive manner or would require quite a bit of additional fundraising. Something that comes to mind for me right now is the installing of the capturing of water from the splash pad in Chuck Roberts Park. I can see identifying that as a way to actually longer term save resources for water expenditure. So I think I would be really interested in seeing just those action items flagged with that as well for strategic planning.
Any other comments? Counselor Penamara?
Yeah, I also think this format is an improvement because it provides more specificity. I'd love to see more specificity. I don't know if it would become a different document, but to have the effort level and whose effort is it? Because then some tasks could be, you know, maybe a committee is going to do the bulk of the work and maybe the city's just going to supervise a little bit, something like that, to show those out. And also I'd like to know, you know, what's impactful for the budget and what isn't. Because I mean, you know, you raise the whole policing model, all of that, that's huge, hugely significant for the budget. Some other things, maybe less so. They may be more in the kind of nice to have category where it's mostly a volunteer effort, for example. So to me, those are, you know, pretty different things in terms of how they impact the budget. So certainly I would like to talk about the things that you feel are really critical to the budget among the goals and really get a solid understanding of those. Some of the other things can be maybe secondary.
I just want to make sure I'm clear about what we're talking about here. So I'm hearing prioritizing as part of a goal setting workshop and then taking those priorities and as part of the discussion of budget. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. That sounds fine with me as long as the workshop is not combined with a budget meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what I meant is like, I want to understand, and some of these items that I might not understand as well. If you say this is like 40% of our budget, so thinking about it in those terms.
And that I would hope some of that information would come to the workshop as a preliminary discussion. Yeah.
Because yeah, and you're not on the budget committee, but when the budget comes to council, you're also participating there. The mayor
The train has left the station by then, so I definitely want to be a part of that workshop.
Yeah, totally.
All right, cool. Is there anything else on this that you need?
No, I just wanted to under feedback so I can do some better fun.
Great.
So thank you.
All right, so then, yeah, yeah.
Were we gonna get a date before?
Oh, did you want to get something on the calendar now?
We could, I don't know if you want to do it on a budget committee night or on a.
It doesn't matter to me. I guess what I'm shooting, just want to make sure that the decision we make at the workshop is then brought to the budget committee. That's literally what I'm asking for. Yeah, but I don't want to be removed from that process.
All right, so could it be on the same night?
Yeah, I don't have any issue. I mean, I don't even, what night is the same night that you're
So the fir-
proposing?
Yeah, you have a committee meeting and the council on May 1st.
Oh, is that the night you're proposing?
Yeah, you could do that, or, the standalone budget committee meeting is May 8th. What time is it?
Either of those are fine with me.
Yeah, if people can make both, I would, the slight preference for May 8th, because otherwise May 1st is pretty loaded.
I'm gonna be out of town May 1st, so I won't participate that day.
May 8th is better for you.
So we'll schedule something up for May 8th.
Is there any value in scheduling it for May 1st and May 8th? And then, if we don't get through, is that something you think we can handle in one meeting? Because we're down to an hour.
It's, the May 8th council meeting.
There's no
Hector,
council.
how's the agenda looking?
There isn't one on May 8th.
Yeah, it's just a
No.
budget
Oh,
meeting.
excuse me, it's May 1st.
May 1st council meeting is right now pretty light, but that's,
Counselor Byers?
May 1st, do we also have our first budget meeting?
yes.
Aren't we trying to have this conversation before that first budget meeting?
But we don't do anything.
Yeah, and I think what we're agreeing on is that we're gonna have the decision before it goes to the budget meeting.
On May 1st.
I don't know what the date is, but so that's why I was suggesting May 1st and May 8th, because if we don't make a decision until May 8th, you'll be there for the decision and you'll know what came of it. I just don't want to hold us up if we go to May 8th and we can't get it done in one night, then we're off to the next one, the following meeting.
I'm fine with that if you guys want to start on the 1st.
Yeah, and we can hold off on the decision until you're back on the 8th. It could be on the Counselor Byers?
Even though I've participated in a few budgeting sessions now, the first budget meeting, what are your goals to be looking at? Would the outcome from this discussion of goals really shape what you're presenting then?
At the first budget meeting, we're gonna present the budget, the budget narrative, how the budget is structured, what some of the key elements are to look at in the budget. And then not really get into the detail.
So following up on that, would waiting for an ultimate outcome from our goal setting discussions either cause a redundancy or inefficiency in staff work on that first budget meeting presentation?
Well, it is a short time between now and next Wednesday.
Exactly.
But I think we could be prepared for a discussion of goals and actions before the budget meeting. Or
I think the bigger question that I'm getting at is, do we need to have this meeting before May 1st? Will it impact what you're doing on May 1st? Will it make that process smoother and more expedited, or is it too close together and it doesn't matter?
I'm just thinking of the logistics of trying to do it.
Exactly. I feel that too.
Are you not,
The-
are you guys?
Originally I was scheduled for last,
Right,
so we lost a week.
right.
Yeah, frustrating as heck. Are you foregoing, budget training this year? Budget, yeah, so haven't you guys done budget training on the first meeting?
I don't remember doing any budget training.
I thought that's what happened. It was budget
No,
training and then budget, and then presenting the budget and then budget narrative at the next meeting.
But
That's-
presenting the budget narrative, here's how the budget works. Would be at the
That
first
sounds
meeting.
about the same, then I guess. Here's how the budget works, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't think we're getting any further down the road here. I'm flexible.
Okay, I'll try to work the schedule so we can, I don't think trying to schedule a meeting between now and really.
I have one more technical question. So if the goals are going to be amended, then I mean, I think I'm just asking for the finer answer of the question that you asked. Are you going to have time to inform the budget of the amended goals? Because some of this is going to be changed
Well, yeah,
presumably.
At this point, what I'm recommending is that for this year, you consider the items 1 through 3 as your goal. 1 through 3 in the staff report. That really needs to be your focus this year.
So I mean, okay. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about this. All right,
All right, we'll tee it up for
Okay.
next week. Okay, we'll stick with this format and we'll work at filling in, you know, I don't think we need to fill in all of the pieces and really adopt a major new goal statement. We agree to focus on the 3 top items that I've recommended.
can I ask a question? I think it's going to be important for us to ask this question now before we get, so that we all have time to think about this. If those aren't the top 3 goals that are recommended, are you just asking us to focus on 3 goals
Yeah.
for the upcoming year?
For this coming year.
Yeah, but, so it isn't necessarily locking us into these 3 goals, but you're encouraging us to not exceed 3 goals. Is that what I'm hearing?
To focus on these 3 goals for this coming year.
Well, Counselor Byers?
These specific 3 goals.
And if we don't see those as the same priorities, are you asking us not to exceed 3 goals?
If you want to add more goals there, then it's, I think, going to diminish your ability to achieve these.
But what if these are not the same priorities for the council?
I mean, changing 1 to 2 or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
is that,
That's fine.
are you trying to limit it to 3 goals is really what I'm trying to get
Yeah.
at. Yeah, okay.
I think he's trying to limit it to these specific 3 goals and we can rearrange them. Unless I'm getting that wrong.
Well, but what if,
I don't know,
Well,
maybe I
because
got,
we can continue working on the others, but these are the ones that we, as your staff, are priority.
this, I guess I want to push back a little bit because I don't know that these are the same 3, I mean, these are the priorities for the council.
Right, that's what I want to hear.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a discussion for the meeting then. All right.
Can I just make a?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at these goals and I see what we talked about as like foundation. And I feel like some of the things that you're saying is like, we can't do these, you know, ambitious things until we get our house in order, get our policies written down, get the budget, make sure everything's paid for. Kind of this stabilizing thing. So that's where I hear that you're coming from.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. And, you know, I think we could talk about, you know, the gateway, is it you know, is it this year, is it next year, is it the year after, or something like that. There might be some flexibility, there might not be, but could be some flexibility in that. I don't know, one of the things when I hear that, I say like, yeah, I can see that you as city manager, having to focus on all of this stuff. And I can see the finance thing, that would completely occupy our financial director. But then I see, you know, I'm looking broader at the staff, I see maybe there's some more flexibility for these other things that may not be hugely time demanding. Like, for example, let's say there was this, we really wanted to get some section of code having to do with parking. Let's say that was like a super priority for the council, which probably not a good example. But let's say it was, and then the community development director basically had to just supervise the consultant. The LCD says, here's a grant, we're gonna do it all, and you just make sure it's okay. Would that be, we could see that maybe as a smaller time slice for
Now, the-
you and for
the-
staff?
The question is do you have the resources to hire a community development?
Right, that would be that. So that would be like, maybe there's a grant or something. So all of these things kind of come into play. But mostly we have to start with your time. And the various directors, you know, time, the things that they can do, that they can't farm out. And then if we do farm things out or outsource it, you know, is there funding for that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, okay, wait a minute. I think I was looking at the grid and not so you're suggesting that we focus on the 3 goals that are in your staff report?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's very different.
I was sweating bullets. You should have seen what I was looking at on your grid. I'm like, Gary, you're freaking me out here. I'm not even gonna tell you what I was looking at. Huh?
We will do nothing until we do the bathroom.
Yeah.
Nothing else. The city stands still.
Still, I mean, I do wanna, I always like to make sure that there's latitude for movement, you know what I mean? So I appreciate what you're saying, right? These are the foundations, and I can't say that I don't agree with you, but making sure that everybody understands there's latitude from this point to that.
Yeah.
To review and suggest other things as well, if any council member wants to do that. Okay. That's just my way of making sure that my point wasn't lost.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, thank you, Gary. Is there anything else on this, anybody? Okay.
Can I?
Nothing? That's it.
Maybe I'll talk to Gary after.
Okay. Counselor Panama?
Yeah, I just want to, so we're saying both the 1st and the 8th. I want to make sure I mark my calendar.
Yeah.
And do we know, are we talking about before the meetings, or, because I'll have to take, you know,
Yeah.
okay, so like 4 o'clock or something?
So, the Council Procedure, you work during the day. So.
You're not
but
available on the
here, but
1st.
you're not here on the 1st.
I'm not here on the 1st, but in general, I can head out early for what's important.
Yeah. Music.
All right.
But the 8th, we only have the one budget meeting, which probably doesn't go too long, so it could be after.
I think the idea was to do it before the budget meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, to make decisions before the budget meeting.
Oh, right.
So that these can inform the budget.
Well, I would say that on the 8th, if you want to do that, I'm fine with starting sooner, if that works.
We'll hold off on the decisions till the 8th. Will that work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we always tend to wind up on a similar page anyway, so you probably, if you meet on the 1st, you'll have a pretty good idea where you're going, and then on the 8th, it'll probably just wind up being confirmed.
Yeah, which,
Just because the discussion kind of leads to where to go.
but it gives you an opportunity to read the record
Right.
and help make that
Yeah,
confirmation.
I'm just anticipating that I probably won't have any big problems with where the discussion goes.
Yeah.
I could be surprised, but usually that's not the case.
We're gonna go with the first.
Can people meet earlier on the 1st?
What time?
Like. when's
I
the budget
can't.
meeting?
Budget
Should I-
meetings are at 6. So 5:30.
5:30.
Wait, on the first, I have the budget meeting starting at 5:30. Is that wrong?
On the agenda, it says 5:30.
I'm sorry, Counselor, I don't have it in front of me, but we can review
Well,
the,
it's on the website, right?
We'll start an hour before the budget.
okay.
So is that 4:30?
That'd be 4:30.
Is that problematic for anybody?
Well,
That's just during our leadership meeting, so.
Yeah,
time
so
is
we'll just
blocked
cut
out.
our leadership meeting out. We could go as early as 4. Yeah,
it'd be nice to build in a little bit of time for breaks, for food and stuff.
can you feed us?
No.
We could.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think,
Grider has her hand up.
what's that?
Grider has her
Nicole.
hand up.
Oh, Nicole,
You're looking at me or Dave?
Nicole?
Yeah, I know we are all welcome to attend the budget meeting, but that isn't a requirement. Is that right? Am I remembering this right from last year? I think I was on maternity leave during budget time, actually, but
Required.
It's required.
it is? Okay.
For a quorum.
Yeah,
Okay. And then, yeah, because I wasn't, so you said then starting at like 4:30 on the 1st?
Yes.
Yeah.
that's for the goals discussion, but it doesn't look like we're gonna get to a goals decision until the 8th if you can't make the first.
Right. I can't be there 2 Wednesdays I am planning on being there next week. And so yeah, and I can start earlier. I would agree with Counselor Panonoff that breaks would be great, but I can't be there 2 Wednesday nights in a row in person. I'm sorry. So but I will definitely be there next Wednesday and I can come as early as needed.
Okay. Hopefully we'll come to a conclusion, but I think we'll have a quorum on the 8th if you're not able to make the 8th. But I think we need to move forward.
Well, will there be remote access? I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's what she was asking.
Are you asking, can you make remote access?
I can, if that's allowed, I can.
Yeah,
Yeah, just, you know my childcare issues, on Wednesday evenings, but yeah, I can definitely do remote, on the 8th.
great. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and, do you have everything you need on that, Gary?
No, we're good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move to item 10.1, which is consideration of the Urban Forestry Committee recommendations of the public tree management. Staff report?
Okay, you have 2 recommendations that have come forward from the Urban Forestry Committee. Recommendation 1 was that the Urban Forestry Committee be consulted prior to the removal of any public trees. And recommendation 2 was that the city council adopt a policy that all public street tree locations be preserved as a suitable tree planting site. So we've provided some staff comments on each of those proposals, and you've also received some comments in writing from former Councilor Clark. Our recommendation at the staff is that you include the recommendations for consideration as a part of the update of the tree ordinance. And further, that we understand the distinction between the Urban Forestry Committee being consulted and also having oversight. So it's right now it's the responsibility of the management to manage the right of way. And we've had to remove some trees in the right of way periodically. As I understand this, the concept is that we would need to to consult with the Urban Forestry Committee before we took any such actions to remove trees on the way.
So when that fan turned on, I'm having a difficult time hearing you, Gary. The air conditioner behind my
Okay.
head is,
So for example, three trees are scheduled for removal at the police station to accommodate the solar array project. So reading this recommendation is that we would need to consult with the Urban Forestry Committee before those trees could be removed. We're not recommending that they would have approval authority, I assume here, but they would have a role in determining whether those trees would be removed. It means we would have to wait until we could get on a Urban Forestry Committee agenda, talk to them about removal. Perhaps they would have questions. How long would the delay be? We have a contractor waiting. It could become problematic. It's just what we're saying. And, you know, Councilor Collet was at that meeting, I think, so he may have a perspective on what was trying to be achieved there.
I do have a question were you finished with your staff report? Yeah. I don't see the minutes or the recommendations in the record. I see the staff report on the recommendations, but I don't see the actual motions. Am I just missing it?
They're not in there, no.
What page is it on?
They're not in there.
They have not been provided.
What's that?
The minutes for that meeting have not been provided.
Okay, so we don't, we have a summary of their motion, but we don't know the nuances of the motion. All right, because there seems to be a discrepancy between Resident Clark's interpretation of them and the staff's interpretation of them.
And Councilor Collet could perhaps advise on that as he's the minute taker.
Okay.
Was the minute taker, obviously.
You're the what?
I was the secretary.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the
So
minute. the
I may
minute
have made the
taker.
motion. I do not recall.
The next best thing to having the minutes is
Yeah.
having the minute taker. Gotcha. Okay.
I think, just in short, I think former Councilor Clark's comments and his corrections and additions and potential motions they capture the spirit of what was trying to be captured. To speak to that, I think this all kind of stemmed from the trees needed to be removed around Rays and the discussion that happened with that in the council meetings. And I think it's similar to what other cities do. I don't think there was an intention of, trying to have the Urban Forestry Committee have any sort of authority over staff, which I don't feel like they do. But it was more of just a opportunity to consult on the potential removal of public trees, which it's important to clarify what was meant by public trees is trees in the public right of way. So not necessarily any trees on any public property, but trees in the public right of way. And then, so that's kind of around the first motion of the actual removal of trees in that decision. And then the second motion stems from what has happened a few times. This happened with, I think it was a Taxodium that was across the way from the new development that's downtown Avenue. I'm blanking on the name of it. That it was Renaissance Flats. It was mistakenly removed. And there was mitigation plans for that. And then all of a sudden utilities were put into that tree spot. And so that site that had a tree in it for whatever it was, almost 30 years, and it was a special tree that was planted on Arbor Day, that site all of a sudden became unusable and the tree is not going to go in there anymore. So some sort of mechanism, and this may be part of the code additions and updates that have been waiting to be happened on urban forestry matters, so that we're not constantly losing potential spaces, because generally what happens is once a space is paved over, we're not going to spend
thousands of dollars to cut out concrete and make new planter areas. So the best place to plant a tree is where there is already one existing or there was one before. So. Yeah.
Staff's concern was that it appeared that they were seeking a blanket policy that all current tree locations are appropriate. And Fred tried to provide some examples of current tree locations that are perhaps not appropriate.
Yeah.
So if we have a policy that says all current locations are appropriate, what do we do with the tree that's planted in front of the stop sign?
Yes, and the tree that's planted in front of the stop sign, that tree specifically doesn't have a history, but that location has a pretty troubling history. So there was a tree planted there some number of years ago. I think you're aware of this situation. And a private citizen dug the tree up and removed it, which kind of circles back to something that any tree that's being removed, any property in Talent needs a tree removal permit. So anyway, a tree was removed illegally and there was some conversation with council. I wasn't around for that. So a tree was replanted in this location to match the oak tree across the street from it. This is the entrance into town. The idea was to have, you know, a nice street tree there. And then it was recently topped. So actually in this picture on page 120, somebody topped this tree, which I think in the tree code, topping trees is actually considered removal of the tree. So that tree's not going to grow any taller. It's actually going to become worse for the stop sign and just branch out and bush out. The tree probably would have continued to grow up straight for another year or two. It could have been pruned around the stop sign. The other two examples on page 119 and 121, obviously the stop sign's where it has to be. It's not going to be moved, but I would say if there was some consultation and some thought about planning, is those other signs could potentially be moved. I think the Urban Forestry Committee recognizes that, and this is kind of the case in the solar installation situation, that removal of the trees is always the easiest option. That's kind of how the green infrastructure is looked at. Whereas these signs could be moved. One of them's currently falling over. Also, you know, a planter was developed there and then a sign was built on the opposite side of the planter. So something at some point was going to be, you know, planted in that planter space. Same thing with the one on 121. So I think that would be something to look at.
Council Byers?
Just to note, like, as supportive of this, in the included comments from Jason Clark, he does quote the potential motions regarding recommendation 1 and 2 from the TUFC. So I think we can actually see the language of both of those recommendations in the packet.
So I just want to add to the conversation that I think asking, I had this conversation with Resident Clark, who is being interviewed for the committee tonight, and I'm expecting a recommendation for his appointment. So I just want to say that we're probably going to be dealing with Councilor Clark on these issues moving forward, Resident Clark moving forward.
Commissioner Clark,
Commissioner now, he was,
Commissioner Clark and then.
yeah, planning,
committee
yeah,
member.
that's right, okay. What I have a concern about with the recommendations that are coming from the Forestry Commission is not so much you know, the intention that they want to participate in decision-making, et cetera, which is yet to be decided and yet to be considered. But that this idea that making a recommendation as a concept to create a policy and for us to take that concept and direct staff to create a policy regarding these is understandable coming from a committee that doesn't necessarily have dedicated staff support. I know, Gary, you're starting to attend the meetings, but that's different than having dedicated staff support where we can direct like with the planning commission, we can direct them to do a code amendment, or we can direct them to do, and they have a staff member that can help them write a policy and bring a policy to the, because it's a little bit backwards for us to be directing staff to write a policy for the committee where if a policy like this is something that the council desires and they believe it's in alignment with the enacting ordinance to rebuild, and protect our canopy, then I recommended to them that they consider, and I think you'll probably talk to the committee tonight about it, that they consider starting to write a proposed policy rather than asking us to direct staff to write a proposed policy, with the understanding that if they do that, and they provide us with a policy that meets these, that addresses their hopes or the recommendations here, that we have a commitment that those proposed policies, like the resolution, goes to the staff, for the staff to make their comments on and prepare for the following meeting. And then, subject to the council consideration. And, all I can say is the times that we have, directed staff to write a policy for a committee, it grinds to a halt. And it doesn't solve any problems, and it continues to be a challenge, not just for the committee members, but also for the staff, when there is, no clear direction on how to proceed on something. Whereas if we have a policy in place and we have a proposed policy that we can vet and amend and create greater clarity, then the staff has a policy to work off of, that they've had something to say about, that the attorney has had a chance to look at, and that the council has had a chance to amend with staff input, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my suggestion, to Resident Clark to take to the committee, is to consider drafting a policy that they could advance to us, rather than us directing staff to start to draft a policy, which we all know they don't have capacity for anyway. I'm going to take Councilor Collet, and then I'll take Councilor Penamara.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation, and probably would seek future clarity on how to go about doing that. I think part of it might stem from the understanding of the committee that they don't get to direct staff and that they work through the council. And so I think that there's probably some disconnect there of that understanding of how to do that process that you were talking about, they want the trees to ideally not be removed, but they want, to consult about it and further the urban canopy and all of those kind of things. So I think in their mind, they're going to make a motion and send it to council. So you're saying.
No, I understand that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess just like the mechanism of how that would actually work, would be what I would want to know to be able to bring back to them, although I don't know if we would be able to make next few of their meetings, so,
I mean, Together for Talent did it, they just brought a resolution. And it'll go to the staff for their feedback. And they'll send it back to us, and they'll say, this works, this doesn't work, consider our thoughts on this, and we'll either adopt it or not. I just don't know how that's going to turn out. And honestly, this is not respective to any of the content. I'm just talking about a procedure that is probably has a better chance of making it through than asking staff to queue this up in the long line of policymaking. But I can tell you, when I was on the planning or the Parks Commission many years ago, we wrote a lot of proposed policies, and we hijacked most of them from Central Point. And then modified them a little bit, sent them up, council tore them apart, adopted what they wanted and not what they wanted, and a lot of that became Parks policy at the time. And I've talked to Jason about that as well.
Yeah.
So, you can follow the example that Together for Talent did. I don't know what their process was, but I'm sure that you could get that information. But there are ways to to propose policy changes. And or, you know, we can queue it up and direct staff to queue it up. Yeah, Counselor Penamroth and then Counselor Postizo.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate this conversation and I think I agree with what's being said. You know, I think I really like your suggestion of just taking from other cities, because that's a great way to look at things, because you get educated as you're doing it, and you can tweak things as you go. But also reading this, it occurred to me that the planning commission is a really broad, if I remember correctly from the ORS, it's a very, very broad scope of work, and that this could fall under the planning commission's scope. Now, of course, we do have the same staff concerns and everything like that, but they might be able to provide some advice, and I'm thinking of the commission, I think would run into the same trouble overburdening staff. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Any, Counselor Postizo?
Well, just picking up on that, I think it's along similar lines. When I was on the planning commission, we adopted the current tree ordinance as a planning commission. So I don't know, that may not be exactly what you're after, but I would just on what the mayor said, you know, having worked in local government as staff for some decades now, I found there's no better way to get something done than to provide something for people to pick apart. So, you know, my experience has been, you can have lots of great ideas and you can say, oh, we should do that. And then you wait for it to get prioritized. It hardly ever happens. But if you can put together something, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to, you know, get you down the road. Then you have a lot more likely chance to actually get something done, because people have something to bite onto and work on. It's like the blank piece of paper for a writer.
Well, and you know, I'd be happy to sit down and show you the process I've used in the past, and I'm sure that others could do the same that have done something similar, but it's all in accordance with the enacting. I mean, we enacted this body to be a recommending body to the council on legislation and creating policies, and we do the best for the staff when we provide them with policies that they can execute. And we do that in collaboration with the staff, with your input and with what will work and what won't work. So everybody gets a chance to weigh in on it, but the recommendation that's been provided to us, I think, is so broad of a direction that it's almost dead on arrival on some level. Counselor Byers?
I think this is a refining of what you are saying right now, but I think I also am thinking about things in terms of policy setting instead of managing, or even being an immediately accessible advisor. I think about things like our Economic Development Commission, which does not have enough people on it to function right now. Same with the Traffic Safety Committee. And so should that happen for any reason with the Urban Forestry Committee, I would hope that there is a policy staff can still look to base decision-making on, even if there is not an advisory body they can go to, because there's not a quorum of them to give that advice. I think that would still be such a powerful tool to give the city and something to really focus on.
And that's exactly the kind of feedback that we would be able to do when we're picking it apart. That's where Counselor Coley.
Yeah, just in summation, I appreciate all of the feedback in here, and I think it sounds like this is more of an error in process by the committee and less of a misunderstanding of the goal. So I think it sounds easy enough to go back and draft the policy and work for that. To the tree code,
I just want to say I don't think it is an error. I think it's it's a practice that we've, you know, fallen into.
Mhm.
And it's, but I do think there's another way to approach this that it's probably
Better way to
more
go around it.
collaborative and, success oriented.
Yeah, to the tree codes, I think, to my understanding, there is a whole bunch of updated tree codes that are on like Title 17, they're in the parking lot. Something like that, of waiting to be worked on and actually enacted into ordinance. So,
Yeah, if the queue for the
Mhm.
tree code into one of the titles, I think it's title 8.
17, I think,
Yeah, I think it's
Title 17, 18.
yeah, it's one of the two, right? And
So I think there's quite a bit in there too that would be in relation to some of these motions that have come from the committee.
And are you saying that reviewing those and making recommendations for amendments when we address those, is that what you're talking about?
I'm saying that adopting them or continuing the process and getting them adopted is what needs to happen.
Yeah, the ones that we already have, getting them adopted. Yeah, okay, I understand. Counselor Byers?
I would say taking a look at them too, like how wonderful to avoid that thing that happens in bureaucracy where you've got like this one document saying the one thing and you've got this other set of policies over here saying something that doesn't align, and then how it becomes arbitrary just by that disjointedness. So what a great chance to make sure it all aligns.
Yeah.
One other thing I would ask, since we're talking about the Urban Forestry Committee and we could probably talk about it at committee and commission reports too, but I just want to suggest as you join as a liaison that when there are discussions at the meeting level about things that are going to be executed by the committee out into the community, those have to come to us as recommendations before those executions happen.
Right.
So I know that seeing the agenda for tonight, there was an item on there about the removal of the trees at the gateway and replanting them. That's always been a plan,
Mhm.
but it hasn't necessarily been the plan that the tree committee was going to do it.
Mhm.
So not suggesting that's not a bad idea. We just want to be able to review the idea and then approve it. So it would have to come to us as a recommendation
Mhm.
prior to
Yeah.
executing.
I think they understand that, yeah. I think-
Do they? Yeah. Okay, good. I didn't know where it was going to go, so.
Probably a lot of dreaming and scheming is my guess, but I think there's an
Yeah.
understanding that like whatever is discussed in there is definitely not gonna happen unless
But
staff
w-
or council approves
My
it.
concern is born out of the fact that some other projects have happened without our even knowing about it.
Yeah.
And so here's an opportunity for us, especially you brand new into the position as liaison, to kind of recourse that.
Mhm.
Like, this is a great idea. Let's make a recommendation. Let's get that approved and move forward from there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Good.
great. All right, well, I am happy to come and work on this but do we need is there a motion? I don't,
Sounds like no action to me.
yeah, it sounds like no action at this time, which means that we can recourse. It's not a no,
Mhm.
it's
We're finding.
yeah, well, it leaves the door wide open for any recourse. Counselor Perry Miller, do you have?
Just really quickly, I move to extend this meeting until 9:45.
Oh, wow, that far, yeah. Is there a second? Okay, motion and a second to 9:45. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did you see Councilor Greider can't stay?
Oh, yeah, okay. We still have a quorum. Counselor Greider, you can go anytime. So maybe we can get done before then. So item 10 point, is there any further discussion on 10.1? Counselor Perry Miller?
Just really quickly, the process things, like TPAC deals with this all the time too. It's just one of those things that I think that we could use a little, more clarity, more practice. So it's
Yeah.
not just the Urban Forestry Committee. And then I also just wanted to note that we had talked to Gary about the committee's summit at the end of May, which is a really great opportunity for the committee, at least the chairs, to come and, talk about process, talk about all of these nitty gritty important things. So anyways, that's also something to look forward to.
Counselor Byers?
I just wanted to say, it's been same with parks, super engaged, super excited folks, but
I don't want to move on without saying, I hope to go to the meeting. I have a meeting with Julie on Friday and I'll say it to her, but what a tremendous, amazing, beautiful job you guys did on Arbor Day. And the pictures are gorgeous and I was at a different meeting, but on my way home, I drove through there that day and just so grateful for the tremendous amount of work that went into that. And thank you so much.
Much appreciated.
I'll try to definitely pass that on
Mhm.
to everybody. I talked to Jason about it today and I'll talk to Julie about it on Friday. But
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. What a beautiful, beautiful event. All right. Nothing on 10.2.
That's a new item.
Yes, the new item is it's an informal, we don't take a motion, so I just, for the record, we're appointing Counselor Collet to liaison of the Urban Forestry Committee as well as to the Bear Creek. Do you know the name of the
Bear
committee?
Creek Revisioning Master Plan Steering Committee.
Yeah. Are there any objections from it? He's basically picking up the work that Counselor Clark was doing. And my understanding from you is that that's kind of wrapping up a little bit
Yeah,
anyway.
the Bear Creek thing is wrapping up. And
Yeah. Great.
so grateful.
Yeah, thank you for taking that stuff on. All right, and then committee and commission reports. Anybody? I mean, we can get out of here. So let's just take the important ones.
Just really quickly, parks, I will be advising them, having consulted with the mayor and the city manager, to hold a public hearing at their upcoming meeting for public input on the so far re-envisioned Chuck Roberts. That would be potentially put forth to the council as a recommended amendment to the Parks Master Plan. And then I would ask also for a public hearing to be added to a council meeting as the council is receiving the presentation of that recommendation as well for additional public input.
So you guys will take your public hearing and you'll adapt your feedback into whatever you're amending, and then that amendment will come to us as a recommendation. And is that in June? Were we talking about bringing that?
It
in
will
June?
have to be in June because the parks meeting would, it could be in May, but May is so packed anyway.
Yeah.
I think it should wait until June.
I know we were talking about pushing one meeting to June. Maybe it was.
I think it's a different one.
It's a different meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
but
Okay, same thing though, right?
Yeah.
Probably. All right, anything else? Counselor Penamara?
Just interestingly, so I'm now vice chair of the Rogue Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization, which deals with like federal money for large transportation projects. And usually there's like this solicitation every few years and the town's like too small to participate. But they're swapping out the SDBG funds, which was surface, I can't remember the rest of it because it's late, funds for gas tax money. And what that could mean is it could mean dividing money up by population. So it could mean that our city would be getting some transportation dollars that we wouldn't be getting normally. So that's just kind of a heads up. It still hasn't been figured out yet.
Anybody else? All right, I just want to do one follow-up thing on the discussion we had about writing policies. I do think it's a good idea for the liaisons to bring, if they spent 5 months working on something that we had no interest in it at all, that would be the benefit of us hearing about it before we ask them to, feel free to bring us a policy. So we should we should let our committees and commissions know that if they have an interest, it should come to us for some consent, I guess would be the right word. But we can talk about that further at the summit meeting.
When's
Um,
that meeting? Sorry.
It's the 5th Wednesday of May.
So 29th.
All right, there is there any other business?
It's not quite other business, but it is something I wanted to get to before the close of the meeting really quickly.
Yeah.
Dave, I would love to, in our next study session where we're looking at the council rules again, revisit quickly the topic of attendance. In mandatory attendance for counselors to a certain minimum number of meetings. I'd love to revisit that so we can add a little language concerning accommodations for something like maternity leave or attending via Zoom versus in person, just so we can add some real clarity and make sure that in our rules, we're very explicit about our support of a wide array of ages and commitments in our counselors. We're supportive of that.
I do think in our written discussion of that, we kind of did not come to a conclusion and deliberately bracket that. We'll come back.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we do and that we have that.
I'd be really happy if you had any ideas for some language. For us to look at.
Yeah, I to echo what she's saying, there's been like this idea that what we've discovered, especially with Council Greider, is that having council members be able to access through Zoom when they're having maternity leave or even, with a small child at home allows us to broaden the accessibility to folks. And even leaving language open for like medical concerns or something like that, long-term medical concerns where they could function with us by Zoom. Do you know what I mean? So it would have to be kind of broad, but this has just been such a great example of how we can be more accommodating and have a better
Caring for an elderly parent that you don't want to live alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's equitability and inclusivity policy in practice, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we keep saying, that's something that's a value as a council. So let's be sure that we work that in where we can.
Yeah, but
into
I'm
our rules and
I'm glad for your focus on that, Anna, and really also so glad that we've had this experience with Council Greider because it's been a real eye opener that this is possible and it's forward thinking. Yeah.
And thank you to the staff for pioneering this option that keeps it open. for
Totally.
People.
Yeah.
And thanks to COVID, who got us.
All right, settle down there. All right, you guys, so let's get out of here. There's no other business, right? Thank you, Councilor Byers. No written communications. Let's adjourn this meeting at 9:40. Thanks, everybody. Well, I'll tell you what, Gary, I'm so glad I got another look at those 3 priorities because the ones I was looking at, and I thought, is he up?